2 out of 3 people on Ozempic regain their weight within a single year. But it's not because the drug failed, it's because nobody told them what their body actually needed alongside the medication. Once you understand how that works, everything changes, I promise. I'm Dr. Jones, DC, and I lead the coaching department for our nationwide GLP-1 telemedicine clinic, where I coach thousands of patients on sustainable weight loss. You gotta understand that this is very personal for me because I lost 100 pounds. And after that, for 10 years, I struggled to maintain that weight loss, regaining and losing the same 50 pounds every single year. Today, I personally microdose my GLP-1s and I maintain fitness at a level that I've never thought was possible. But I do this because I have a foundation that I do every single day. So I'm not here to bash these medications at all. I use them strategically, but here's what nobody's telling you. The lie isn't that GLP-1 doesn't work. The lie is that they work alone. And this lie is costing people like you thousands of dollars and setting them up for devastating failure. You see the medical scene here? The idea flipped from obesity is your fault. Eat less and move more because they had no good treatment. Now that they do, all of a sudden, it's a brain disease that's chronic and irreversible. I'll let you guys run with that one. But let me set the record straight. Obesity is chronic, but it's also reversible. And right now, you're probably searching, why am I not losing weight on Ozempic? Or maybe you've already experienced a plateau where the scale just stopped moving out of nowhere. Or worse, you've stopped taking it and you're watching the weight come roaring back and you're full of emotions and you're frustrated and you're going back on it and you're stopping. You don't know what the hell to do. Thousands of people search for this exact question every single day. You know what the medical system tells them? Let's increase the dose. Why are you stopping? You're supposed to stay on the medication because obesity is irreversible. Classic medical oversight in my opinion. But here's what the truth is. 65% of people quit GLP-1 medications within a single year, and 2/3 end up regaining that weight back. Not because the medication stopped working, not because they lacked willpower, but because they were never told the complete truth about what's actually required to make these medications work long term. And today, I'm going to expose the 3 specific biological reasons why the medication alone will almost always fail and show you what actually needs to happen alongside the injections. So let's break this whole thing down. Okay, so let's start with what Ozempic and other GLP-1 medications actually do, because there's a lot of confusion about this. And understanding this is critical. GLP-1s do 3 main things to your body. First, they suppress your appetite by acting on your brain's hunger centers. Second, they slow gastric emptying so you feel fuller for a longer period of time. And third, they improve how your body handles insulin and blood sugar. We call this metabolic flexibility. Essentially, your body's ability to switch efficiently between burning fat and burning sugar for fuel. Now, here's what's important. These medications do improve insulin resistance, they do reduce inflammation, and they do help with metabolic flexibility. The research is very clear on this, but this is while you're taking them. Your metabolic markers get better, your blood sugar improves, your fasting insulin improves, your inflammatory markers get better. So what's the problem? Well, it all comes down to what we mean by the word fix. GLP-1s fix your underlying problem. In medicine, fix means a medication improves a condition, or a marker for that matter, a lab marker. By that definition, GLP-1s do fix insulin resistance, inflammation, and metabolic health. And that's true. They do improve these things while you're taking them. But here's what I believe true fixing means. Healing the underlying dysfunction so that you can either stop the medication completely if that's your goal, or maintain your weight loss on a microdose of the medication, which I think this is where most people are gonna land. This is compared to needing higher doses for the rest of your life. Think of it like this. If you have high blood pressure and you take blood pressure medications, your blood pressure improves. The medication is fixing your blood pressure by the medical definition. But if you stop the medication and your blood pressure shoots right back up, did you really fix the problem? Or did you just manage it temporarily? It's funny because many intelligent obesity doctors and specialists that I have a ton of respect for will use this very argument as a rationale for defending the notion of needing these medications for the rest of your life, asserting that obesity is chronic and irreversible. And again, I couldn't agree more that obesity is chronic. I've made that very clear. I personally deal with persistent food chatter myself that if I don't microdose the medications, my fiance is quick to remind me at dinner that it just seems like I just don't stop eating and conversation drops. But that argument in of itself is flawed. You don't remove the medication that stabilizes important health markers just because the stabilization is achieved. You implement strategic lifestyle changes that address the root cause that led to the need for the medication to begin with. And then you slowly work to decrease that medication over time with the help of your prescriber, because ideally, if you get to the root cause, the need for the medication itself does decrease. That's root cause healthcare. By the way, let me know in the comments, what do you think about this? Does this argument justify lifelong medication dependence about obesity, or do you agree with my rationale and what we can actually work towards? But first, Let me show you exactly how the pharmaceutical companies studied only the medical improvement side, completely ignoring the metabolic healing side. This is going to make you angry. Okay, so here's what's happening with GLP-1s. They're managing your metabolic dysfunction incredibly well while you're on them. But unless you're healing the root cause at the same time, you're stuck in eating higher and higher doses. And many of you have already experienced this. And let me be clear, I'm not arguing against using them. Again, I use them myself as a microdose, but I use them as a tool to help me do deeper metabolic healing, not as a replacement for that work. And here's the part that should really piss you off. The pharmaceutical companies and the medical system study these medications completely wrong. Yes, the clinical trials included lifestyle counseling, but it was the wrong type of counseling. They told people, eat less, move more, increase your protein intake, the same generic advice that has failed for decades. They focused on treating obesity as the disease, but they never tested what happens when you address insulin resistance, chronic inflammation as a root cause. They never studied fasting protocols, metabolic flexibility training, hypertrophy-based resistance training strategies that actually heal the underlying issue. So even in the best case scenario, even in the clinical trials where people had support, they were getting the wrong type of support. They were being told to manage their weight with medications plus calorie restriction, not heal their underlying metabolism. This is what I mean by flip the script. Standard medicine, even in research, treats obesity as the problem. But the real problem is the underlying insulin resistance and inflammation. And the real problem is what addresses those two things. Until you address those, you're just managing symptoms. Let me walk you through my own journey with this, because even somebody who understands all of this, I'm still microdosing GLP-1, but the difference is how and why I use them. I struggled with weight for over 20 years of my life. Started gaining weight at the age of 6 or 7. By the time I was a teenager, I was over 300 pounds. I got terrified. I made changes. I lost 100 pounds using traditional methods. Cardio, resistance training, 6 meals a day, calorie counting, the whole conventional playbook. I call it the bootstraps method. I busted my ass. But here's what nobody tells you. Losing weight is one thing. Keeping it off is completely different. From age 17 to 25, I lived in that yo-yo cycle. Every single year, I'd gain and lose another 50 pounds. I'd get excited for summer. I would get in shape, and then I would regain it all back after summer. It was exhausting. It was frustrating, especially watching my friends at that time who could eat whatever the hell they want and drink like a fish, and they just stayed lean year round, or at least they stayed at a healthy weight. At age 21, I discovered intermittent fasting. I was skeptical at first because it went against everything that I'd been taught about eating protein throughout the day. But eventually curiosity won, and it made a massive difference. I ended up ultimately experimenting with weekly long therapeutic fasting, and that's when things really clicked. After months of consistent therapeutic fasting, I finally felt like my metabolism was healed. My body wasn't fighting to regain weight anymore. My labs improved, fasting insulin, C-peptide, all of the markers of insulin resistance got better. I maintained a healthy body weight for several years through fasting and metabolic health management. Then in my early 30s, I started using GLP-1s, but not the way most people use them. Microdoses, a fraction of standard dosing. And here's the key, even with that microdose, I'm still intermittent fasting every day. I still lift weights several times a week. I still manage my carb intake on days where I have high carbs and I have days where I have low carbs. Now, if you're sitting here realizing that you need both medical improvement and metabolic healing, not just one or the other, hit that subscribe button right now, because we put out 2 videos per week breaking down exactly how to achieve lasting weight loss with proper metabolic healing strategies. And it also helps with the channel big time, so hit that button now. Now, even at a microdose, even with all my knowledge and experience, I can't cheat the system. If I can't, you can't either. The medication is a tool, a powerful one, but it's not the whole toolbox. Let me show you the 3 specific biological reasons why I can't skip the work, and neither can you. Because once you understand these mechanisms, everything will begin to click and make a ton of sense. Reason number 1, GLP-1s genuinely improve insulin resistance and inflammation and metabolic flexibility while you're taking them, but they don't address root causes that are driving these problems. So let's get into that critical difference. So what exactly is insulin resistance? You think of insulin as the key that unlocks your fat cells. In insulin resistance, those locks are broken. Your cells stop responding, so your body produces more insulin, trying to force the lock open. Now, look what happens through a normal day in someone who's insulin sensitive. Insulin spikes briefly after meals, the fat cells are available to release energy most of the day, but in full insulin resistance, insulin stays elevated most of the time. Your fat cells are locked in storage mode constantly. GLP-1 medications genuinely improve this. They help your cells respond better to insulin. They reduce inflammation. They improve how your body handles blood sugar. Your labs get better. A1C, which is your long-term 90-day blood sugar, that drops. Your fasting insulin markers improve. Your inflammatory markers come down. This isn't fake improvement, it's real. The medication is actually making your insulin resistance better, while you're taking them. But what most people don't understand, GLP-1s are improving insulin resistance by overriding the factors that are causing the insulin resistance in the first place. Think of it like this. You're bailing water out of a boat with a hole in it. The medication is a powerful pump, keeps you afloat, keeps the boat dry, and it works, but the boat stays dry while the pump is running. And that hole is still there, leaking water constantly. And that hole, that's the chronic inflammation that never got addressed. That's the poor dietary patterns. That's creating constant blood sugar spikes. It's the sedentary lifestyle. It's the metabolic chaos where your body can't switch between fuel sources. It's all of that underlying drivers that created insulin resistance in the first place. So yes, the medication improves your insulin signaling, but the forces causing the resistance are still actively working against you. The medication is just powerful enough to override them. And I hope this is starting to click right now, because this is where people get stuck. When you stop taking it, those drivers are still there. And without the medication override, insulin resistance comes roaring back. And I see this pattern constantly in our clinic. Patients who have been on Ozempic for 6 months, lost 30 pounds, labs improved dramatically. They feel like a whole new person, but they're still eating the same inflammatory foods. They're still not exercising. They're still metabolically stuck. The medication is doing all the heavy lifting. And when life happens, insurance changes, shortages, side effects, you name it, all the reasons why people stop, everything reverts back. Massive weight regain around the corner. The medical approach makes this worse because patients hit a plateau after 6 months, and the solution that people are told is to increase the dose. And that's just using more medication to override the same underlying problems. It's turning up the pump instead of patching the hole. True metabolic healing means addressing those foundational issues. Strategic fasting that reduces chronic inflammation and insulin levels at a cellular level. Metabolic flexibility training so that your body can function properly. Strength training and proper nutrition. These are just some of the things that'll actually patch the hole, so that you don't need a pump running at full blast forever. This is the difference between medical improvement and metabolic healing. And microdosing means having a little pump handy and using it occasionally. The medication improves your condition while you're on it. That's real. It's a catalyst for change, but unless you're fixing what's actually creating the problem at the same time, you're building a dependency. Maybe your goal is to reduce to a microdose like me, and that's fantastic. I'll help you get there. Maybe you can wean off entirely, but you can't just stop the medication that's been overriding broken systems and expect those systems to just magically be fixed. It ain't gonna work, and you're gonna have a rude awakening if you haven't already. Now, if you want me to break down the specific fasting protocols that actually heal insulin resistance that we use with our patients, drop in the comments what sort of fasting you're doing, or if you've been told not to fast at all, that way I know what kind of video to make. Now, the second reason medication alone fails is even more shocking, and it's something that most doctors never warn you about. Let's talk about what's actually happening to your body composition. Here's something that concerns me when I see patients on GLP-1s without proper guidance. Research shows that lean body mass loss can range anywhere from 15 to 60% of total weight loss, with many studies suggesting losses around 25 to 40%. That's a wide range, and it matters which end you're on. Let me clarify something important. Lean body mass isn't just skeletal muscle. It includes organs, bone, water, and even fluids in the fat tissue. Recent research suggests that some of this loss comes from organs like the liver actually shrinking, which may be a healthy adaptation to having a smaller body, but there is genuine muscle loss happening at the same time. And here's why muscle mass loss matters. Muscle tissue burns approximately 6 calories per pound per day at rest. And when you factor daily activity, the total impact can be around 9 to 10 calories per pound per day. So if you lose, say, 15 to 20 pounds of skeletal muscle during rapid weight loss, that's roughly 150 to 200 calories per day that your body no longer burns. Now, 150 to 200 calories might not sound dramatic, but here's the math. You're eating roughly the same amount after stopping the medications, but burning 150 to 200 calories less every single day. Over time, that creates a surplus that leads to gradual weight regain, and that weight regain comes back as fat, not muscle, unless you're actively preserving muscle during the weight loss phase. I had a patient lose 45 pounds in 5 months. She walked into our clinic that day wearing this beautiful fitted dress, proud and excited to show off her progress. But when she sat down, her smile faded. She said, "Dr. Jones, I finally fit into my gold dress, but when I look in the mirror, I don't look attractive. My arms look flabby. My face looks gone. I'm smaller, but I look deflated, not lean." She asked me the question that broke my heart. Like, what did I do wrong? We had her do a DEXA scan. She lost a significant amount of muscle mass. Her metabolism had dropped. And here's the kicker. Her doctor never once mentioned protein intake or strength training. Just take your shot and eat less. Classic medical oversight that completely ignores what's happening to body composition. So why did this happen? 3 main reasons. First, rapid weight loss means your body breaks everything down for energy, fat, and muscle. Second, GLP-1s suppress your appetite so much that people end up way under eating protein. And third, without strength training signal telling your body that you need to keep muscle, your body treats it as expensive tissue that it doesn't need in an effort to survive. And this is why the medication alone can lead to massive muscle loss problems. If you've lost a significant amount of muscle in the weight loss process, your metabolism is now slower. The moment you stop the medication, you're eating the same calories and burning less. Weight regain becomes very likely. Now, if you want me to make a video where I specifically get into the exact strength training and protein protocols that we use in our patients to help prevent muscle loss on GLP-1s, let me know what sort of protocols you're doing now. Drop it in the comments so I know what kind of video to make. Now let's get into the third reason here why the medication alone fails. And this one explains why so many people hit frustrating plateaus. Reason number 3, your body begins to adapt to the medication. And when I say adapt, I mean it literally fights back against what you're trying to do. Here's what happens. You start GLP-1s, month 1 through 4 are incredible, weight's dropping fast, hunger's gone, you feel in control for the first time in years. Then month number 5 hits, month 6, the scale stops moving, you're doing everything the same, but nothing's happening. Does that sound familiar? This isn't medication failure, this is your body's survival system kicking in. Your body perceives rapid weight loss as a starvation threat, so it activates biological defenses, the kind of things that kept our ancestors alive during famines. It has the ability to just down-regulate and slow things down when there's no food incoming. First, your metabolic rate slows down. This happens for 2 reasons, partially because you have less lean tissue to maintain, which is normal, but also your body undergoes metabolic adaptation where it becomes more efficient at using energy. And studies show the total reduction can be significant, though the exact amount varies by individual. Second, your appetite regulation system changes. And research shows that leptin, your satiety hormone, your fullness hunger hormones, typically decreases during weight loss, which makes it harder to feel full. And the data on ghrelin is much more complex, but what we see in our clinics is that patients report massive hunger increases over time. So you have a double-edged sword here. You're more hungry, your metabolism has slowed down, perfect storm for a rapid weight regain. All this combined is why Ozempic stopped working. It's such a common search. The medication didn't fail, your body adapted. And the medical response, increase the dose, simply temporarily overrides the adaptation without fixing why it happened to begin with. You end up needing more and more medication to get the same effect. True metabolic healing prevents this adaptation. Periodic fasting resets your metabolic flexibility. Strategic cycling of the medication prevents your body from locking into survival mode. This is the work that keeps GLP-1s effective at lower doses. And again, you know my goal for you is to help you work towards microdosing for maintenance and build some independence of the medications. Now here's where it all comes together, because once you understand these pillars, you'll know exactly why the medication alone isn't going to work. Let me show you the actual work that's required. Here's what it all comes down to. Remember 2 kinds of fixing we talked about. If you want true fixing, not just medical improvements, but actual metabolic healing, you need these pillars alongside the medication. This is what we call the flow approach, and it's the foundation of everything we do in our clinic. Pillar number 1, heal the insulin resistance at the root level. Not just improve it with medication, but address the drivers. Strategic fasting protocols that give your cells a break from consistent insulin exposure, managing inflammatory foods, building metabolic flexibility so that your body can switch between fuel sources. This is what patches the hole in the boat. Pillar number 2, preserve muscle mass aggressively. Resistance training at least 3 times a week per week. 3 times per week is non-negotiable. High protein intake that we typically recommend about 1 gram per pound of target body weight. Progressive overload in your training so that your body has a reason to keep that muscle. This is what prevents the metabolism from dropping significantly and guarantees that you look better, not just smaller. And pillar number 3, prevent metabolic adaptation. Periodic metabolic resets through strategic fasting cycling, dose optimization, and using the lowest effective dose, not automatically increasing. Cycling your approach so that your body can't lock into that survival mode. This is what keeps GLP-1s working long-term without needing more and more medication. So finishing off here, here's what the medical system gets wrong. They treat obesity as a chronic disease requiring lifelong medication, but it's not irreversible. The lie isn't that GLP-1s don't work, it's that they work alone. These medications provide powerful medical improvement. It's a catalyst for change, but true fixing requires metabolic healing to work alongside them. Remember, 2 out of 3 people who quit and regain, they weren't set up to fail with bad medication. They were set up to fail with incomplete information that they got about medical improvement without metabolic healing. They got the pump, but without the patch to fix the boat. Your story doesn't have to be like that. GLP-1s are powerful tools when used correctly as part of a comprehensive approach that addresses insulin resistance, improves muscle, and prevents adaptation. That's how you use the medication strategically while building true metabolic health and medication independence. So if you're ready to get professional support, you want my help or my medical team, or you want to work with my coaches, you can click that link in the description to book a free discovery call where my team will get with you, figure out what you've been doing, and give you an overview of what it's like to work with us. You can click that link to book that call, or you can text that number on the screen. And if you guys want to get a better idea of what healthy eating looks like, these are my top 20 groceries that you should have stored in your house. Check out that video right there. I'll see you guys later.